Hello and welcome to the Morning Buzz. Right now, Kyle Pepitone and I, Kenny Horn, are joined by a special guest, Al Manzo. You may know Al from The Real Housewives of New Jersey, from Bravo TV's Manzoed with Children, or as the owner of the Brownstone, a very successful catering business and venue in Paterson, New Jersey. So, Al, thank you for coming on the show. It means a lot that you're here for right now. Can you tell us the reason that we have you on is because of the indoor mask mandate is being lifted today. And can you tell us how that affects your business?
Well, it was very, very challenging on several levels. I think it's affected all of our industries, but particularly the restaurant industry. And even worse than the restaurant industry at large, the catering industry, which is a huge part of the New Jersey restaurant scene. It's not a business that is well known coast to coast. I've served on some boards of catering organizations, educational organizations that um, gave me some insight to how little there is outside of New Jersey, believe it or not. Metropolitan area's got quite a few, but pretty much from here to LA, there's almost nothing. So it's unique in a way. Um, what I'm talking about is non-hotel catering facilities, really what the designation would be. And what happens is in our business, you would carry heavy trays. So servers, sometimes 110-pound servers, are carrying 40-pound trays, 200-300 feet to a table to serve 8 or 10 people. Now, it's hard enough without a mask, but wearing a mask while doing that is almost unbearable. You just cannot get the amount of oxygen you're going to need to do that job without just making it that much harder.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I have friends actually that they work in the restaurant industry as well. They're always telling me how difficult it is to work with that.
Right. Yeah. It's not the greatest. It's pretty much a handicap almost. Depending on like what industry you work in or what job you do, it could really affect you more than somebody else who's like has to wear it standing around at like a cash register or like sitting at a desk all day. So I definitely think the masks have definitely affected different industries differently, and more specifically, different like job positions differently.
It's bizarre in a way because early on in the pandemic, after the mask mandate came into effect, I started to see coincidentally some bizarre health effects. I was getting tired. My anxiety was going out of control. My blood pressure was uncontrollable. It was terrible. So I went to see a doctor, and the doctor says, "Oh my God, you can't wear a mask all day long. Your O2 drops, blah 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 blah." And there's an executive order to cover people like you. So I did enjoy that exemption, but try that exemption when you walk into a food store. I mean, it's more trouble than it's worth. So you put the
Right.
darn mask on, and you get your milk and your eggs, and you get out of there. But my family actually operates the Berkeley Hotel in Asbury Park, which is a new venture. We've been doing it for about a year now, and I just said to the doorman a few minutes ago, I said, "Are you excited about not wearing the mask?" And he said, I think I'm going to still wear it. And so I said, well, there's a law that says you don't have to wear one anymore, but there's no law that says you can't wear one. So those people that are, for lack of a better word, freaked out that there's not a mask mandate, nobody's telling them they can't wear their mask. So God bless them. But my staff at the Brownstone starting tomorrow will not be required to wear a mask.
Right. And with that being said, that split between people who still might wear it and those who aren't going to, are there, starting with this mask mandate being lifted, is there any events you expect to get right away, or do you still think people will more gradually ease into like coming back to stuff like this? Like, is there any events like you have right off the bat starting tomorrow with the catering?
It's not like you can plan a
Well,
wedding in a day.
Right.
Full disclosure, the work that we're doing now, which is a blessing and also tragic at the same time, is all 2020 work. I'm doing a wedding on the weekend of July 4th. That was supposed to happen the weekend of July 4th, 2020. So, what's happening is people are basically putting their lives on hold. A lot of these weddings, they got married anyway, but didn't have any kind of reception. So basically, it boiling down to doing a lot of work that I would have earned that money last year. But in a bizarre way, it's kind of lucky because June, July, August, all the way through holiday of the previous year is when I booked the spring and the summer of the following year. So we did no business. We didn't write any business in October and November. I mean, people were just like not knowing what to do. Everything was on hold. We're not going to plan something for the spring. We don't know if this is going to be over. So luckily, there at least is some life. The biggest challenge we have right now is really nobody wants to go back to work. I have a team that is just not willing to go to work, and they're getting all this money for free from the Fed, supplementing the state unemployment, and they have no interest in working. When they can grab $800 a week for staying home, they're not going to work for me for $1,000. It's just tragic. It's a mess. It's really a mess.
Yeah, you mentioned the point that it's difficult. You lost a lot of business with, yes, they are coming back. Like it's something like you said, if it was 4th of July last year, it's now this year. But you said that there was that whole season that you weren't able to book for the upcoming times. And
yeah, we would just crickets. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it was just crickets. That's a good way to put it. And I'm wondering about your offsite catering because according to your website, you offer that. And I'm wondering, how has that been enough? Has that been enough at all to maintain the business side of everything?
Well, let me give you a little idea of some of the stuff that we've done, right? So we're doing events for major banks like TD Bank in 3 different states. We do a lot of work for Memorial Sloan Kettering. We do a lot of work for municipalities, townships, and all different types of things, not just citizens or people having weddings and other parties. Those events all dried up as well because, my work is basically, hey, bring food for 400 people to this this hall or this amazing venue. Well, people are not gathering in those sizes, so that money just pretty much dried up as well. And if you're saying, well, we're catering for the family, a dozen people, as you could imagine, it's not that much harder to accommodate 300 than it is 30. You're doing all the work, you're cooking, you're delivering. It's just not that much more effort. But the revenue is a fraction. So there is no bright side to it at all. We tried DoorDash, Uber Eats. We converted our menu into because remember we had a St. Patty's Day week was when it got crushed, right? So we got closed down on a Sunday. The next day was one of the local congressmen. He was going to have 600 people for corned beef and cabbage. Well, he canceled the party like 3 days before. So now I got all this corned beef. What am I supposed to do with it? Right. There was no bright side. So we went to Uber Eats and said, hey, we're going to put together a menu. Here's a meatloaf dinner. Here's a fish and chips, and we'll deliver it to your house. And you can order for one person. It was certainly not worth the money, but it was, I think, worth the effort to keep my core kitchen staff working and the chefs were working and getting paid. And, but it was rough. It was rough.
Right. And throughout this past year, what things from a business standpoint have you learned or have taken away from this pandemic, and how have those lessons impacted your business?
I don't know if many of us can really take away anything from it in a sense that, how do you prepare for something like this ever happening again? I don't know if you could. Brownstone was uniquely positioned to endure something like this because I've been there 40 years. I don't have a mortgage anymore. My first mortgage is paid. My second mortgages are paid. There's very little debt service, but that doesn't mean there's not drains. I mean, my tax bill would choke the average person. Just my property tax bill. So there really is no way to paint a rosy picture, and really very little you could take away from it, because how much money can you put away? God forbid a pandemic happens again. The rule of thumb was always 6 months. Be able to keep yourself alive for 6 months, and that certainly wasn't long enough in this case.
Right.
I have friends in the industry. Well, probably one of the only good things that came of it was that all the caterers in North Jersey kind of bonded. We Zoom called every single Thursday and met for a little strategy. And what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about that? Uniquely bonding us, which was kind of, because we are rivals. We're fighting for some of the same parties every week. But, there's guys out there that have made tremendous investments. Look at the Corgellis family that owns the Venetian. They took a giant leap of faith and brought the Shadowbrook, a beautiful facility. They invested millions of dollars on renovating this place. And when it was done, they couldn't even open. So now they take on all this debt service, they take on all this new project, booking parties that can't happen by law. The same good friends of mine are the folks that own the Florentine Gardens and the also the Chateau, the Park Chateau. These are guys that have massive mortgages that they have to meet every month. And with the revenue stream cut completely off, that's who I admire. I mean, how did they suck it up, if you will, persevere through that when they're making these 6-figure mortgage payments every month with no revenue stream? Those guys, my hat's off to them.
Yeah, and you mentioned it a lot. It's very tough for a lot of owners, and you don't have to be a restaurant owner or a business person to even know that. It's just common sense at this point. But it's over, and the masks they're coming off, and we're getting to the end. So thank you for sitting down with us. For those of you who just tuned in, we just wrapped up an interview with Al Manzo, the owner of the Brownstone. Thank you, Al, for coming in, and enjoy the rest of our show.